What the hell is Quinfall? Is it real? Is it a scam? Is it actually coming out in Jan 2024? Let's see if we can find out. Now I want to make it clear that I am not rooting for the Quinfall or any other MMO to fail. Far from it, I actually want every MMO to be successful. A rising tide raises all ships. But I do worry that in our desperation for the next big MMO, we are a little bit susceptible to the scam games coming around. We've seen recently that The Day Before made headlines for all the wrong reasons, and we've had quite a few Kickstarter MMO scams, sort of looking at you Chronicles of Elyria. So the question is the Quinfall real, or is it more of a scam, asset flip, etc.? Now the Quinfall is an MMO being made by Vorik Technology. They are a Turkish company, and the game is actually promising some really cool, fascinating things that if it is true, and it is to be believed, then I think there's reasons to be excited. The world is going to be a vast 216 square kilometers. That's quite frankly massive. It's going to be a sandbox MMO featuring real seasons, great visual fidelity, open world PvP systems that's going to have a true medieval non-target action combat, a little bit like New World I think. There's going to be ship battles, island battles, sieges. Apparently every guild can own its own island and then the islands can be attacked. Every castle that there is represents a city, and then you can siege for ownership over it. Somehow the game's going to have time travel, and I mean, I have no idea how that's going to work, how that features into the story. That just seems insane. The max level is going to be level 50, and a little bit like New World, there is no class system. There's going to be 9 weapons for you to pick from. There will be open world dungeons, there'll be open world bosses. They promise there's going to be a very detailed character creator. They're hoping that there'll be over 12,000 people per server. And in the taverns in the towns, there's going to be mini games. There's going to be separate PvP and PvE servers, but you can actually have the same character and flick between the two. So if you want to go on a PvP server, which is going to give you more rewards, higher risk but higher rewards, then you can do so. But if you're fed up with that, you can go straight back to PvE. Like pretty much every MMO before it comes out, they are promising that there will be no pay to win, but cosmetics will be sold. They say that there's going to be an immersive story and much more. Now the game is currently planned, by the way, to be a buy to play game. And honestly, to me, that sounds like if New World and Ashes of Creation had my dream baby. Probably shouldn't say that to my actual child, because on the surface, I would personally be very into that. It sounds like the game of my dreams, but I'm a little bit worried that this might be more Nightmare World than Dream World. There's just something about this game that gives off the wrong kind of vibe. Not unlike The Day Before, but actually for some reason I have more confidence in this game, and I can't really articulate why, but I'm going to try. So let's start with the basics. The game is being made by a company called Vorik Technology, as I mentioned, and they apparently have anywhere from between 50 to 200 people working for them. Now, the history of the company is a little bit short and a little bit confusing. They did start a previous MMO called Kyra Online, and they started that in 2019. The company was established in 2020. Kyra Online was then disbanded in 2021. But I have to say, looking at some YouTube footage, it seemed playable. It seemed like a legitimate attempt to make an MMO. After that project was disbanded in the same year, 2021, at some point they started the Quinfall. And at best, if it was January 1st that all happened on, the game could just now have about 3 years in the making. And obviously probably less, because I'm not sure when they made the change. And I think that's some of the confusion and some of the worry for people. If you look at Steam, you might think that the game is actually coming out in January 2024. And that's not quite the full story. Actually, according to their Discord, this is going to be a date for a closed beta test. And then there'll be further tests at some point, a more open test, and then finally the release. So it's not like the game's been in development 2 or 3 years and then suddenly it's coming out. That's not going to happen. That's not part of the plan. I'm assuming this is all to do with how Steam does its date. I don't really know. But for a lot of people, that very short development time is definitely an eye-opener, and you're like, oh, does that make it a scam? Is it real? Can they actually have done this in that time? Well, they're not even saying that they have done it in that time. Now, one thing that they do say on the Discord is that they have technology in their name, because effectively they see themselves more of a tech company than a gaming company, because they want to inject their technology into the game's engine. That is a little bit of a concern for me, and we'll come on to why in a moment. And apparently the Quinfall is fully funded by a Turkish investment company, and they are currently stating that they won't be asking for money until it launches. And as I said, it will be a buy-to-play game that will release on Steam. Now, the game is being made on Unity rather than the Unreal Engine, probably because they can inject their technology into that a little bit easier than Unreal. Maybe, I don't know. And you can sort of tell that it's on Unity engine rather than Unreal because it doesn't give that Unreal vibes. For me, it's not quite as polished, even though the graphics do look good. I think visually the game looks great, but sometimes it just doesn't quite have that Unreal level of polish that we've seen in other MMOs. Okay, but are there any actual red flags? Well, honestly, not really. There's a couple of things that I've picked up on and I'm like, is that a red flag or is it just my sort of spidey senses tingling without any reason? For example, on the website, they talk about how they will be incorporating using advanced tech and AI systems. Now, AI systems might raise some red flags for you, but honestly, going into 2024, AI is sort of getting more and more prevalent. I would sort of expect AI to be getting used more. The fact they're mentioning it might be a little bit of cause for concern, because it sort of implies that might be where they actually want to go, and they might just be having it all procedurally generated or something. But I mean, that's a stretch. I don't think there's many really hardcore, true big red flags here, but there's one little thing on the Varic website where it states about the game that the journey will determine the fate of Middle-earth. And yes, I don't think Middle-earth relates to anything other than Lord of the Rings, but do feel free to correct me. And you might think, well, that's obviously an issue, but I don't really think so. As I said, the studio is Turkish, and on the Discord that they say that the game is set in the Middle Ages. I would not be shocked if this is simply a translation error that hasn't really been picked up on. I mean, the whole paragraph on the website does read very badly, but it could simply just be that it's not a native English speaker, which is obviously fine. I don't speak any other languages, I'm just an English idiot. The next thing that I saw that some people might think is a red flag, but again, I don't really think it is the fact that when you try and sign up for the beta on the website, they actually want your phone number. Now, I don't remember many games requiring my phone number just to sign up to it. And honestly, it sort of put me off. I haven't actually signed up for it for that reason. Now, maybe this is just a cultural thing. Maybe it's a requirement in Turkey. I simply don't know. Maybe this is a non-relevance, but I didn't want to share it with them, so I didn't. The next one might be the biggest red flag, but it's not even related to the Quinfall. There's an interview with the developer where they sort of suggest that they are interested in creating a meta world, a true replication of Earth. And honestly, most of the tech companies that come out and say they're going to do meta projects and crypto bros and all this kind of stuff turn out to be scams or projects that are over ambitious that they can't deliver on. Now, I'm not saying that this will be Varic technology, but it just raised like a concern for me. It might be nothing and it's not actually directly the Quinfall, so I don't know if this is really that important. But really, that's all I could find for reasons not to believe in the project. On the Discord, and I'm not going to pick out any messages because I don't want people to like be breaking their NDAs or anything like that, it sort of sounded like some people have played a version of the game already, and the feedback seemed to be that it was maybe a little bit rough. It's not like somebody was coming out saying, this is a scam, this is nothing like they promised. It just seemed a little bit unpolished, a little bit unfinished. And to be fair, if they are currently in the alpha stage, that would make complete sense. There's no smoking gun here, but for me, there is a feeling of uneasiness, and it's really hard to pinpoint why. I worry that because their first language isn't English, that maybe the translations are just making it seem a little bit off, and that obviously would be truly unfair. But even when I watch the footage and I look at the gameplay and the trailers and all that kind of stuff, and I know that it's Unity, something just doesn't feel right with it. And I can't really fully explain why. I know people watching this, some of you will be, oh, I completely agree with that, something looks a little bit off. And others will be like, what are you talking about, Jay? It just looks like a nice MMO, let's hope that it's good. We don't know right now. I do actually think that there's something real being made. It's not like we just have a pre-rendered Kickstarter video and they're asking for loads of money and there's no game. They aren't even asking for money right now. I think the worst, most likely thing that it could be would be an asset flip. But if they are using assets, then I don't know where they got the assets from. And honestly, I'm not really bothered if people buy assets. That's what it's there for. It depends how good the rest of the game is that they make. In the trailers, I have to say that the environments generally looked exceptional. The animations looked mostly good, and the combat looked a little bit rough at times, but that would be understandable considering it would be an alpha build. I do want this game to be real. I do want this game to be good. I think there's certainly something being made, and honestly, only time will tell if it's going to be good or bad. It might be an asset flip. I don't think it's a true scam, and even with the day before, we weren't really 100% sure that it was what it was until it actually got released. There was always a chance that it could have been real. Now, my gut tells me that the Quinfall is not on that kind of level, but I think the less we know about an upcoming MMO, the more we fill in the blanks ourselves. If you are a super positive person, you might see nothing wrong with the Quinfall. But if you've been beaten down by many MMO scams and unfinished projects, then you might think, I'll believe it when I see it. And I completely get that. If I was a betting man, I'd say that we're probably going to end up with a niche MMO at best. I don't think it's going to be the next massive MMO to replace WoW or have 1 million people playing at launch. My instinct doesn't let me think that. But you know what? I hope I'm wrong. Let me know your thoughts about Quinfall in the comments below. Big shout out to my Patreons. I do really appreciate you guys. For now, have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.